Today we're talking not porn. Is it porn? Let's get into it. I'm going to offend a lot of people, but I hope that you'll stick around and listen into why this is something that you absolutely need to hear. If you've ever watched any of my content before, you know that I'm super huge on having full context. So in order to have full context, let's talk a little bit about why I'm discussing not porn today. Why is it relevant? And why does it matter? In today's day and age, we live in a world where we are consumed with advertisements. Each of us are being exposed to at least 3,000 advertisements a day. And unfortunately, what this means for men is that they're going to get a lot of advertisements that have sexually provocative images, and they're designed specifically to get your emotions up, get your sexual arousal up, and get you interested in those images. So what does this do? Well, if you're a woman, if you're in a relationship with a man and you can see that he is engaging with these different advertisements, or maybe they're happen to be looking at your phone with you while you're scrolling through things, and they're seeing these women who are being targeted towards you in order to take your sexual energy and attention and put it towards the advertisement. And they're wondering, wow, what do I have to do to compete with this? Now these women are looking to compete with it. So if women are feeling like they have to look and compete with these advertisements, what do you think they're going to portray on their social media pages? What do you think that they're going to have on their headshots? They're going to try and project this thing that they have to try and compete with in order to get your sexual energy and attention directed where it's supposed to be. What is not porn? Well, not porn is essentially anything that is sexually provocative. So it could be an advertisement, it could be a music video, it could be a preview for a new movie coming out, it could be social media headshots from other women who are posting in order to vie for attention, in order to compete with these other advertisements, movies, etc. Essentially, it's anything that isn't overtly pornography, but causes you to go down the same thought patterns that pornography otherwise would. So what it looks like typically is you will see something that is an attractive image of another woman, and they're trying to expose habitual patterns that you already have in your thought process, where it's going to make you feel different things that you're used to feeling. So maybe you're used to pornifying women. When you see somebody who's attractive, you immediately go down the path of thinking about what it would be like to engage with them sexually. Maybe you think, oh, maybe if my partner had this thing that's being advertised to me, then I could buy that, I could have her wear that, and then I could fulfill this fantasy of what it is that I'm actually thinking about right now. So you're not actually thinking about being with your partner, but you're fantasizing about something that's even beyond them, which in itself is not faithful, right? So let's unpack that a little bit. If you are engaging in other content that isn't your partner and you're thinking about it sexually, you're engaging in your mind, you're actually mentally practicing being with another woman, then that's something that's not being faithful to your partner. So as a society, how do we want to define what's pornography? And do we include not porn as part of our definition of pornography? The obvious answer is yes, because anything that is designed to get me to emotionally react in a way that's going to give me sexual thoughts and desires about somebody who's not my partner is pornography. And if I don't train my brain in order to be able to respond to those things better, then I'm going to be committing infidelity and psychological abuse and trauma to my partner over an extended period of time, depending on how long it takes me to overcome these things. So if you can't look at these images and not go down the same thought patterns as what you would with any overtly obvious porn, that's exactly why women and anybody who is able to self-evaluate is calling this not porn. It is porn. When I was first beginning my pornography recovery, I would be talking with my partner and she would tell me how these things were cheating, and I just wouldn't get it. I wouldn't understand, because this is something that's been habitually a part of my thought process for the last 22 years. And it's never proven to me that it's had any harmful effects on either myself or my relationship. Never been communicated to me before. So of course I'm going to have a lot of questions and be like, this is a you thing. This is not me. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're going to have to figure your stuff out. The truth of the matter is, I needed to figure my shit out. I need to figure out, what is she talking about? Like, how is she actually accurate here? And why is she feeling like I'm cheating on her every time that I'm looking at things that aren't her and I'm lusting after them? Oh, it's so strange. I can't believe that she would be so upset that I'm looking at these other women and sometimes I'm masturbating to them and physically coming to them, and she's just she over the top, ridiculously mad, and I don't understand it. Are we that fucking dumb? Are we really that dumb? Like, I know you're smarter than that. I was smarter than that. And that's why I took the time to figure it out and be like, holy shit, I've really been brainwashed here. So off the bat, I might have some of you offended. Let's just get that out of the way. So if you are offended, why is that? Why is it that you're feeling offended? Likely it's because you're a lot like I used to be, where when I would see these things on social media, when I would see the advertisements, I would see women on social media trying to compete with these things, and I would go down that path. I would feel like I was sexually drawn to these things. I would have fantasizations about women who weren't my partner. I was being unfaithful. So you might be feeling offended because you might feel like it is threatening the way that you see yourself in your own relationship, which is a great sign. So if you're in a relationship right now and your woman's already come to you, she's talked to you about using pornography, how it's against her, it's cheating, and you're in this place where you're like, you know what, maybe I don't necessarily see it as cheating, but I at least have enough respect for the woman that I'm with to know that this is how she feels about it. And you've made the commitment to her that you're not going to watch porn. So now you might be in a situation where she's approaching you and she's saying, you know, this is still just like pornography and you're not understanding it. I hope that some of that insight will help you to understand a little bit more about why it's still pornography and why she still feels like you're cheating on her, not being faithful to her, and that you're giving your sexual energy to other women who aren't her. One of the thoughts you might be having is, oh my fucking God, this is a controlling ass bitch. Evaluate that seriously, because maybe she is. I don't know her. I don't know her. But most likely she's probably not. She's probably legitimately correct. You're going to have to evaluate the full context of the entire duration of your relationship to see now how much of your life is she really micromanaging, or is she just trying to come up with actual sensible decisions that are protecting your relationship and in the best interest of your relationship? If you're seeing a continual pattern of trends of her protecting your home, protecting your family, protecting you from being tempted by other women out in society, not wanting you to go down that path of being unfaithful and completely destroying your life, her life, and your kids' lives, then she's probably doing things for the right reason. And that's exactly my intent today. My intent is to help you to have a better perspective about what not porn is, so that you can make decisions that are in more alignment with the type of relationship that you want to have. Because it's all about what you want for yourself when it comes to either pornography or not porn, which are both pornography, so I guess it's just porn. Then that means that it's all up to what you want for your relationship. There's no amount of willpower, if you're only doing it for your partner, that is going to keep you away from these things for the rest of your life. If you don't specifically focus on the things that are actually going to grow your connection with your partner, that are going to grow the cravings that you have for her, not only sexually, but emotionally, if you don't focus on those activities to build that, then you'll basically have a relationship for the duration of your life where you're feeling unfulfilled. You'll constantly feel like there's these other things outside of your relationship that you're missing. So you need to direct that energy to her, to your kids, to your family. What are you building together? What are you guys working on to accomplish as a couple, as a family? That is the focus. So if you're like, Richard, you know what? I hear you. I get what you're saying. I get it, but where's the proof? Where's the evidence at? Give me some science. I'm a science man. I like facts. If that's you, I got you covered. There's actually 5 areas of the brain that are both activated by visual stimuli when it comes to pornography and not porn. So if you're questioning whether or not it's actually the same thing, well, how do we better evaluate that than looking at the facts of what's actually going on in our brain? Because whether or not something is porn or not porn, if that same activity is going on in our brains when we're watching not porn, then by fact, that would essentially mean that both are porn. Here's 5 areas of the brain that hopefully you'll be able to see. Okay, he's got some valid points here. And I really can't argue with that. Let's go over the areas of the brain. Number one is going to be the hypothalamus, and that's responsible for your physiological responses to sexual stimuli. So whether that's pornography or not porn, you're going to respond in the same way. Area number two is going to be the amygdala, which is responsible for emotional control and reactions. So if you know anything about our brains, the way they work, the way that they do habit formation, what it basically means is if you've got a pattern of going down the same road over and over again, well, then the likelihood that you're going to take a left and go down the other road isn't very likely. Now, the third area of the brain that's going to be affected is going to be the nucleus accumbens and the striatum. And it's going to be able to process things in your reward center saying, hey, this is something that we want. We're used to having this, and it sounds like a really good idea. If we use this, then we're going to feel a lot better right now. It's going to help you with your emotional control, and you won't feel as bad. That's why if you're feeling sad, depressed, anxious, stressed, your brain's coming up with these different ways in order to help you resolve those emotions. So if the way that you've always resolved those emotions is through pornography, then a similar way that your brain is going to try and resolve those emotions is going to be through something that uses all the same parts of your brain as pornography did. So even though it's technically not porn because they have their clothes on, it's the same thing. Now, the fourth area, well, technically fourth and fifth, meaning there's 6 areas, but the fourth and fifth work together. And that is the anterior cingulate cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex. And those two work together in order to establish an evaluation of your values and your rewards and make any sort of decision-making process that you need to go through. And the last area of the brain that's affected is the most obvious one. It is the visual cortex. You have to have the sensory input come in order to activate all those other areas of the brain. So how we do that is going to be through our visual cortex. If you see this guy in the background, he's my friend. His name's Smokey. He's just chilling. One of the things that people might argue is that it's not as explicit as pornography. So it's a lesser degree of sexualized content because they still have their clothes on. Well, as we just talked about with how the brain responds, it really doesn't matter. When we look at the way that the brain operates and what's actually going on is you're getting some extremely large dopamine spikes when you're getting this visual content and you're allowing yourself to lust after it, to crave after these other women. When you're visually sexualizing them, you're objectifying them, you're pornifying them. And when you're thinking about those things, you're getting a very large release of dopamine. And what that does is that dopamine gets absorbed into different receptors that you have that are available for it. Now, it produces so much dopamine, though, that some of your receptors, specifically the D2 dopamine receptors, will actually physically shrink in size and become unusable because there's such an excess amount of dopamine available. So when you're doing this for an extended period of time, whether it is not porn or porn, you are going to have cravings like you're missing something. There's going to feel like this endless void that you're trying to fill, that you need to consume more. There's something more that you need to see. You need to get the next thing. And this is where a lot of men struggle. It's what causes you to end up lying to your partner, hide it from your partner. It can lead down a path that eventually leads you to real life infidelity. So some of the other things that you might notice, if we're talking about dopamine receptors shrinking in size and you've now got this void that really can't be filled, and even this really high dopamine producing cravings of sexual imagery is no longer cutting it for you. What do you think that says about the rest of the areas of your life? Because you're using the same receptors for everything that is fulfilling you. So if you're not feeling fulfilled in your relationship, if you're no longer enjoying hobbies anymore, if you can't find other things that are giving you a level of enjoyment where you feel content in your life and like you're not needing to use pornography or not porn in order to regulate your emotions, this is the sign. So if you look at your life in general and you can determine, I don't have a lot of areas in my life that are bringing me joy, and you understand that you have a reduced number of dopamine receptors that are supposed to give you the ability to feel joy, then what decisions do you think you'll be most likely to make in order to bridge that gap? And this is why I call it an addiction. You can argue that it's a compulsive disorder and that technically it's a sexual behavior disorder, but at the end of the day, if you are only going to this one thing and this is your primary source of joy and you can't feel joy in all the other areas of your life because of this thing, I'm going to go ahead and call that an addiction. All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into what is one of the best ways that you can enhance your relationship. Sexual intimacy. That's it. That's like the number one way if you want to improve your closeness together is to have sexual intimacy. So if you are no longer getting enjoyment from your everyday things and you need the supernormal stimulus like porn or not porn in order to provide you that joy, that's going to affect your relationship. You are not going to be as sexually stimulated by the way that she looks, and that's regardless of whether or not she has clothes on. You are not going to be as sexually stimulated when she touches you because you have trained your brain what sexual intimacy looks like with yourself, and it doesn't involve another person. It doesn't involve them touching you, and it involves makeup, camera angles, lighting, perfect shots, deleted recordings, and basically a movie that's been assembled in order to get you engaged and watching the entire time in a hypersexualized state. So if you're not going to be sexually fulfilled in your relationship, what are you doing in a relationship? If you don't already know, I overcame a 25-year addiction to pornography myself. So I'm not coming at this from a standpoint of this guy had like the perfect education, perfect parents who taught him everything he needs to know about being in a relationship, what it means to be committed to somebody. I wish that were the case. The truth of the matter is, it took me about 3 years to overcome my addiction to pornography. And during the course of those 3 years, I learned that I was abusing my partner each time that I relapsed. Every time that I looked at not porn, every time that I looked at porn, I was committing an act of infidelity that was against her. I was taking my sexual energy, I was putting it towards somebody else. I wasn't being fulfilled in other areas of my life. I didn't enjoy playing hockey anymore that I played for about 16 years of my life. I wasn't being fulfilled by her. She would come on to me time after time. I would turn her down. I would say, oh, I'm not in the mood. Neither one of us had any idea the impact that it was having on my ability to find enjoyment and fulfillment in any other area of my life. So this isn't to say that there was never any time that I didn't have any sort of sense of fulfillment or enjoyment in other areas of my life. But what I can tell you after overcoming the addiction is this, that when there were things that I was excited about getting fulfillment and joy from in my life, it was temporary, right? So particularly it would be like new things. So maybe it would be a new experience or buying new things, discovering new activities, new board games, doing different events with the family. Those types of things would bring me a temporary joy. But there was always a fundamental lack of enjoyment in the big picture. So those things would provide me temporary joy in those moments, but I was so severely lacking the amount of dopamine and enjoyment that I got from things like pornography that when I wasn't actively engaged in something else, it was always pulling at me. It was always calling me to come back, to get that fix, to get that drug hit. Because I have been through this process, I know what it takes to overcome it. I know the difficulty of the things that you're going through if you are somebody who is sincere about really wanting to save your relationship. I know that there's other men out there who are like me, who've always wanted this deep, intimate relationship with a person that they decided that they want to spend the rest of their life with. I know that there's people out there like me who were victims to the pornography trap, who have been abducted by this addiction. And now you're doing something that you never knew was going to be so against the partner that you say that you love. I know that there's people out there who don't understand what it means to have cognitive dissonance. They don't understand how they can say that they love somebody, yet not fully get the picture of how they're actually cheating on that person, how they're being unfaithful to them, how they're committing acts of infidelity against that person they say they love. Men out there who don't understand that with every act of relapse, of giving in to that lust, that craving, that desire for other women who aren't their partner, you are pushing your partner away each time. and you've conditioned yourself to not realize that you're doing it, and you have no idea how close you are to ending your relationship. You have no idea that she is 1 foot out the door already, and she doesn't know how much more she can take, and she's ready to leave. So I want to address something here because I feel like for where I was at the beginning of my process, before I ever quit my addiction to pornography, there's a lot of things that were said to me that I didn't want to hear because it made me feel a lot of shame and the different things that I had done. It made me feel a lot of avoidance of the things that were being said to me because I couldn't come to terms with the fact that the things that were being told to me were actually true about myself. And I didn't like the way that that made me feel. And so I would avoid them. And honestly, some of the next parts that you're about to hear, you may just stop watching the video. But what I can tell you is that if you're with your partner watching this right now because you're actively working on your relationship, you're trying to understand, what it is that your partner is going through and trying to make decisions that are in the best interest of maintaining your relationship and rebuilding a real relationship, then you need to hear this. So if you're like, yeah, but Richard, how is this abuse? I don't really get it. How am I actually abusing my girlfriend, my fiance, my wife? Well, you're not actually abusing them. You are abusing them. And here's how. When your woman got into a relationship with you, she never got into the relationship expecting that she was going to have to be fighting against some other woman or hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of other women in order to keep you committed to her. She believed that you were making a decision to be committed to her and to her alone. So each time that we as men are failing to uphold that commitment to our partner, that they are the one woman that we are going to focus our energy and attention on, we are putting them through a cycle of abuse where they have to make a decision. Am I going to stay with this man who says that he loves me, but then goes and he seeks out these other women, or am I going to leave? Am I going to tell him that I can no longer be with him? And does that involve kids? Like how hard of a position is that to put a woman in? All right. Tell me this isn't psychological abuse. I'm cheating on you. I expect you to stay because it's what's in the best interest of the children. Like, how abusive is that to somebody's psychology? And that might make you feel good, but honestly, it's not in the best interest of the children. What's in the best interest of the children is for them to have a positive role model where they can see how their father treats their mom, and it's in a healthy way that respects her and their commitment together. It's not to live in this false reality where their dad projects that everything's totally fine and he doesn't understand why mom can't emotionally connect with him and why they're fighting and why they're hollering at each other at night. She's just so unreasonable. Like, if you can't be real with your kids about the struggles that you are personally going through and help them to see how they can themselves avoid the same mistakes that you've made, then you're not only abusing your partner, you're abusing your kids. You're teaching your kids to hide the struggles that you face in life. You're not teaching them how to fight for your relationship. You're not teaching them how to respect others. You're not teaching them how to respect the feelings of others, the emotions of others, the beliefs of others. You're not teaching them how to respect an agreement that you've made with somebody else. You're teaching them how to justify, minimize, make excuses, devalue, and to put your own self-interest above anybody else. And that the only thing that really matters in life is to justify how you're going to get your next high. Whatever it is that you need to do in order to make yourself feel better is totally acceptable. I want you to know that the origin of this bad habit that you have isn't your fault. You fell into a porn trap, most likely when you were a very young man or young boy. But I do want you to also be able to take the personal responsibility that it is to know that you are literally the only one who's going to get you out of this. Nobody can do the work for you that you need to do to get to the other side of this. Now, although it is your responsibility, there are definitely a lot of resources out there. I created a free training with the 4 steps to help you quit pornography. I'll put the link in the description below. You can go ahead and click on that. I highly recommend watching it if you are somebody who's serious about rebuilding your relationship and you want to know what are some steps that I can take to really start to counteract the different things that I've developed and habits over the last 10, 15, 20 years of my life.